Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We have one of our amazing guests on, Brenton. I'm going to botch your last name. How do you pronounce it?
It's just Weiss.
Weiss? Okay. I always
Yep,
think it's like
just Weiss.
Weiss, but I'm like, that's not right because he told me at the game. But we have Brenton Weiss on tonight. And we're going to be going over how you got into the hobby and how did you start on this. And I'm joined by my co-host, Phil,
Hey,
joining me
how's it
as
going?
always.
What's up?
But yeah, how'd you get into the hobby? What started? Did you join friends? Were you in college? D&D? What'd you start with?
It was actually in about high school. I just kind of like found some cool looking models. I was looking at Space Wolves, Tau, and Tyranids, and nobody I knew was into it at all. But I just thought they were really cool and started collecting and painting, and didn't really get to play a whole lot. But yeah, no, I just enjoyed the actual hobby aspect of it.
Gotcha. What was your first army? What army did you start with? I think you said Space Wolves?
Yeah, no, so I kind of had a mix of all. It was Tau, Space Wolves, Tyranids to start, and then I got into Eldar, Chaos. It was all over the place.
Oh,
At that
wow.
point, I was just collecting the coolest looking models to me. So,
And what edition was this in? Do you remember?
I'm sorry, what?
What was the edition you started in?
Oh, jeez. Um, at some, I think they were still playing fourth edition.
Oh,
So,
wow. That's
so
incredible.
yeah, yeah, they were still playing fourth edition.
Wow. Yeah, I started in fifth, into fifth, start of sixth. So I'm much later in that train than most.
You came in at a real fun time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, all of the seventh edition was a lot of fun. I remember because I played Skyhammer Annihilation Force. But sixth ed, I remember kind of being a little bit boring, but just so fun because I'm just so new to this whole new world of miniature gaming and everything. It was a different time. Phil just recently got into the game though, right? End
Yeah,
of
beginning
eighth,
of
start of
ninth.
ninth. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Wow.
I mean, I think ninth edition is actually a pretty good spot to slide into the game. It's a little more streamlined, and as far as I'm concerned, having played competitive, well, I started competitive in seventh. It's a little more balanced at this point than it was back then.
So I think ninth. If I had to pick an edition, I haven't played every edition so far, obviously, but I would say ninth is probably my overall favorite edition of 40k.
Right.
I would say, just how you play the game. It's different than killing each other. It's got actual tactics.
Yeah. So,
Um,
but
but yeah,
no, like,
oh,
I'm sorry.
sorry.
Go ahead, man.
I was gonna say, when did you actually start playing competitive? Like, when did you play competitively? Would you say, or really took it seriously? I guess.
I started playing competitive in about 2000, late 2016. Um, I had bad times in the army that I don't really talk about too often, but it was a really good escape, really good way for me to kind of like hone in on something I cared about that was different. And it was just an amazing hobby, mostly because of the community.
Yes, honestly, the people make this game. When I tell people how many people I've met and all the things I've like gotten to do, and just like networking alone, just like meeting new people, you'll just go to a big event, and you'll meet some of the best players in the world. I.e., you. I didn't meet you until one of our local GTS. You just happened to come to.
You were at Arch City, right? I
Yes, I
think.
was at Arch City.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So we just didn't get matched up,
Yeah, we
but
just didn't
I
get
remember
matched up. We
seeing you
never.
there.
Yeah, we saw you. We didn't know you, but then we met you at the next GT that was really like both these GT are like very close to us, and you were just there. We got to meet you at the second one.
I remember looking over at your Tau and just knowing I didn't want to fight it. And then I got Tau my first round anyway.
I mean, Tower in a really good spot right now. So like, unless you're a good player with them, um, they're not doing so hot. So I mean,
Yeah, I've got
um,
them right here. I dropped them for sisters, but
nah,
I
gotcha.
love them. Yeah.
Yeah, I just picked up my Tau again due to my sister's army actually being stolen that we haven't talked about
Yeah.
before on the channel yet. But
Good.
yes, my sister's army did get stolen. Yes, I am rebuilding it. Uh, been a lot of help from the community getting it back and working on a new army for them. But I play Tau as one of my alternate armies, and I've taken your advice to heart, and now I run Double Bomber in like every single one of my lists. The Double Sun Shark. Oh my gosh, it's so good.
It's really good.
It's really. We talked a little bit at the GT about this, and that I fallen in love with them. They're so good for the points.
Yeah, I mean, for the points, the amount of shots it has, the fact it can toss a marker light, you can fly it off the board turn 1, and then not even have to bring it in until turn 5 when it really becomes a key thing to blow some things off an objective. I mean, it's an amazing piece of utility.
It's a very good piece of utility. The bombs alone are fantastic. Oh my gosh. Also, why does it have so many shots at strength 8 AP2? Oh my gosh.
Well, I'm more bewildered by the fact that we can detach the drones and still shoot like 30 inches.
Yeah,
so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
People were just scared to take them because they were 4-up saves with no invuls, and people were like, "Yeah, not even going to try those." When the Codex came out,
they're paper thin, but at the same time, just it's almost super defensive because I play Tau set primarily, and obviously I have Exemplar of Cayenne in my list, so I'll just rip them off the board turn 1 if I don't want them shut off.
Yep, put them back into reserves if the enemy goes first.
And if I see Blood Angels, they just stay on.
Yep. Oh, it's so. Oh, the Flyer's been such a fantastic add to the army for me recently. I am taking kind of. They're like 165.
Yeah, so even if you get a full round of killing stuff with them, they'll probably trade up.
Yeah, that's the incredible part. Well, how many shots is what is it? 12 of the ion shots.
Yep, 4 of the missile pod shots if you load it out with the second missile pod, and then 2
seeker missiles.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And then it's got the bomb and it's got the marker light. It's just
right.
Oh, it's so good. It also digs people out of like entrenched positions. Like you just go for a backline unit to knock them off the objective, and it can really like like you fly off turn 1, like do whatever. Turn 2 you come back on and you just like flay, or even turn 3 you come back on and flay up their backfield holders. They're going to be losing primary. They're going to be bleeding points on primary so hard.
Well, somebody was asking me at Nova, how do you beat Necrons? I was lucky enough to beat every Necron player I was up against. The answer is you fly into the background, you bomb a couple things that you don't really want reanimating, you punch the reanimator tools like the Canoptic Spider, for example, and get that off the board, and then shoot out the scoring units. That way, when they jump out to try to perform these actions and score these points, then you're able to remove something that usually is meant to deal a lot of damage and be more of a reactionary unit. So what the Sunshark Bombers allow me to do is put a lot more pressure on their decision making, usually forcing a lot of mistakes.
Yeah. But how's your season been going? You're one of the top rated players in the country at the moment. How's your season been going so far? Is there any events that you're excited for? Is there any past events that you did really well that you want to talk about? This is all about you. This is an interview about you, so we'll let you take it away.
Well, I had a little love affair with Eldar there for a couple of events, and it was fun. But at the end of the day, I did come back to my favorite army. So I took them to Nova.
Okay.
I did okay. I went 6-3. I lost one game in a Tau mirror match where I had actually deployed I deployed defensively just in case. I was ready to redeploy to go offensively, and I picked secondaries that were more aggressive. And then afterwards, I realized I did not respect the range on the Riptides and the amount of damage they could put out just because nobody's used them. I haven't used them. And like now I'm actually seeing that 1 or 2 on a list is actually pretty good utility because it helps control lanes of fire and it can jump back behind ruins. So it's actually really good. And
was it the 1 CP for that jump back stratagem to go 6 inches back or whatever it is?
So that is for a that's what I use for the crisis suits. Or
but you can use it on the Riptide, right?
Cold Star, you can do it with the Cold Star too.
Can you do it with the Riptide?
But the Riptide does it naturally if you Nova charge him for that ability.
Oh, I forgot about the Nova charge. That's what it was. Yeah, I haven't played with one at all this edition, so I'm like, I don't even know that this thing can do it.
Right. So spoiler alert, I actually dropped a unit of crisis suits in one of my hammerheads, and I'm bringing 2 Riptides to Michigan GT.
Oh wow!
So
that seems pretty good.
I'm gonna see what happens.
To kind of hit on that, how do you feel about the ninth edition Codex moving from the eighth? Because eighth was because that's when I got into Tau, was when they were on their eighth edition, which three riptides and fill it up with whatever. So like you said, we haven't seen riptides in a while. Everything that was good in the last book kind of died. How do you feel about the new one versus eighth?
I mean, I really like the new book because even though like some units are considered non-playable right now, if you look at the way you can build, almost everything is playable. And the reason I say that is because there's not a single bad unit in the Codex as far as I'm concerned. Every unit has viability. There's a lot of speed. The movement phase can be quite punishing as far as using move blockers like Kroot Hounds, Kroot. Even for example, I was talking with another great player, Brandon Valet, and he used Krutox Riders for fun, and it turns out they were smacking Space Marines off the board.
I was gonna say the crew talks have a good gun actually. I believe it's like strength 5 or 6, AP 2, damage like 2. It's like 3 shots. It's like a beat up heavy bolter.
Yeah,
Yep, no, they're
I
super
agree.
good. So
Everything's usable,
Yeah,
even if you
yep,
don't see it
absolutely
commonly.
everything. I actually don't even think that the Monka nerf needed to happen to the same extent that it did. The main reason was when you get into top level games, you'll see a lot of players who can move block properly and ensure that you actually can't get, those turn one alpha strikes done. Um, so, uh,
especially since Mock Call leads you in such a play position where you have to be so close to your enemy to take full advantage of it, like the bonus AP, like the rerolls and everything. You have to get close to them, and that can hurt you a lot, especially on like GW style boards where there's more places to hide, like walls and stuff like that.
GW style boards are absolutely wonderful. Having played
Yes.
on them in Nova to the extent that I did, it felt like they were much more balanced boards. I played on Type 1 and Type 2, and I had no complaints with either.
Yeah,
So,
I love GW style. I'm a big I also love player plays though. I love GW style for the TO's perspective, but for players' perspective, I love player plays. I've only played one event with
it's
it, but
good. However, that's when player skill and the veterans really come out to shine because they've already got a game plan going forth. They know exactly where they're going to place their terrain if they go first to place it, where they're going to go if they go second, and then they have a game plan to attempt to win either way. So, um,
yeah.
like at Atlantic City Open, I had a game plan against one of the Eldar players that I beat, and same thing with a Tyranid player. I knew exactly where the terrain was going if I placed first and second, and I knew exactly how to funnel those larger bases into a little lane of fire that I needed them to travel down. So, um, yeah, no, it's all about having that game plan.
Yeah, you said you're going to the Michigan GT soon. Do you have any plans to go to the GW Opens by chance?
Yeah, so far this year, the events that I know I'm hitting are going to be Michigan GT, the Chicago GW Open for sure.
I'll be there.
Um,
We can
yeah, I'll
grab a
be
few
hitting
drinks
the Boys
or
GT
water.
in Rochester, New York. It's
Oh
one of
yes.
the oldest GTs, and it's ran by one of the best TOs that has been used by Frontline Gaming. It's Brian Horton who ran ACO.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
seems like he generally rules against me too, so as a friend should.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
no, he's a great TO. So I mean, it's going to be a phenomenal event. And then I'm scheduled to go to Warzone Atlanta. Looking at Glass City GT in Toledo. Jason Snigowski runs that one. He does a great job with it.
Yes. I think that one just got posted recently too, right? If I'm not
I'm
mistaken.
sorry.
Isn't that the one in December which just got posted?
Glass City.
No, I think Glass City should be in. Yeah, the GW one is coming up in October. December is Warzone Atlanta.
Oh,
Glass
maybe.
City is going to be in January.
Gotcha. Maybe I have my dates
I
mixed
think
up.
it's like 2 weeks before LVO, if I'm correct.
Oh, gotcha. Are you going to LVO?
And, yep, that's of course where I'm wrapping up my season.
Oh, yes.
So Thomas and I are like racing with our Tau, trying to be number one Tau.
I love it.
But I'm over here baiting him since I own Sunken City Games. I was like, "Hey Tom, how about a free box of Votan?"
I
like, "Get off
cannot.
the
I
Tau."
cannot wait for Votan. I've already got 6 boxes on order to get ready to go.
Yeah, I can
Second.
personally wait for Votan since I'm not going to be playing them.
Yeah. I wonder if it'll be legal to run in events because we know they're coming out in September.
Yeah, I don't see them being legal for LVO, sadly.
Yeah.
I would love
Really?
to see if they wreck kind of like Iron Hands did that one year,
Oh
but I
wow.
don't think it's going to be the case.
Okay. Fair. Um. But yeah, how's your season been going so far? You're what, 7th at the moment, ITC? 8th?
I wasn't seventh. I kind of took a couple months off of like bigger events just so I could focus on some smaller ones and
Gotcha.
I guess more like support the local GTs.
Yes.
Pittsburgh was one of them. Going to Gem Hammer for their
Gem
first one. I
Hammer.
really want to
Yep.
make sure I supported.
Yeah, I'm actually
And
wearing a Gym Hammer shirt. Let's go.
yeah, it was actually a fantastic event. The
I got paint on it. Rip.
It was Charles that ran it, right? The owner
Yep.
of the store.
No, he doesn't own any of the stores.
Nope, he doesn't
Doesn't
own
own
any
it
of the
yet?
stores. He
Okay,
just
By the
runs
way,
it. Yeah.
Charles, stand-up dude. So I had nothing but good
Yeah.
to say about him in the event. So
Yeah, that was a great first event for them. I'm super happy with it. That so many people enjoyed it. Hopefully, we'll have a major next year is the goal.
I mean, I'm gonna be there regardless. Now I enjoy Gem Hammer, so I'm gonna keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, we had enough almost to make it a major. We just didn't have the
We didn't have this venue space because we didn't think about it, which is
We did
heartbreaking.
not think we were gonna hit that.
Sure, it's gonna keep growing because I mean, when when an event starts out with a wonderful reputation, good things just happen.
Yeah,
I
but yeah.
feel like-
Oh
Go ahead.
no, you go ahead. You go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, I've only been playing since the beginning of ninth, but it seems like the competitive scene is just growing and growing. Because when I started playing competitive last year before, events were like middling in attendance, but like every event now just fills up instantly. Since you've been playing competitive for a few years, do you think like the interest in competitive games has gone up in the last few years?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think 40K has gone through a rapid expanse in the last 2 years, last 2 to 3 years during COVID. Like shockingly during COVID, they actually hit. I feel like they actually went up in number of players because people were in their homes, had more time for hobbies and other stuff like that. And also, we just had so many more YouTube channels come into the fold. Like Tabletop Titans really hit their stride in this past like year and a half, last 2 years, and so did Oh, I'm gonna botch his name. Adeptus Ridiculous. That channel, which is made by Bricky, also like he finally like channeled his love for 40K and really started making a big impact on the hobby. And we have things like Major Kill and stuff really getting people into the hobby.
I would say with growth, we've seen something different as well in the competitive community. Beforehand, it used to be like, hey, you left this model just like a hair outside of this ruin, so I'm able to shoot this unit now with this millimeter in my gun that can see it. That seems to have really gone away for the most part. And seeing sportsmanship rise in the hobby and people playing by intent, having that conversation with each other during the game, it's great for the hobby. Because at the end of the day, I've always felt like, and Brad Chester is actually the one who helped me kind of like define this ideal and explain it. But you enter into like a social contract when you're looking across the table from somebody. You love your hobby, you love your army. They're playing the same thing. They love their toy soldiers. Give each other a good game. It's that easy.
Yeah. You both are here. At the end of the day, we're playing with toy soldiers. Let's have a good time. We all love this hobby.
Well, like, I guess I'd actually really surprised some people, and a couple of my friends pulled me aside after I was on the GW stream. But I was able to bring my unit out and see the back end of one of the guys' Dire Avengers that I was playing. And he was one of the Art of War guys. Super great gentleman. We had a great time. But I was like, you're trying to obscure them, right? Yeah. I just remember taking my tape measure and just kind of like scooting him to the side so he couldn't be shot. So could I have taken advantage of that? Yeah, but that's, to me, it feels like a dirty part of the hobby.
Yeah. No, I totally get that.
I've seen that as well because I had a friend who played a couple tournaments in 8th that were like that, where he was just tired of the nickel and diming and the. This is Will Garrett.
I know Will.
I had to talk him into like trying a tournament now. Like, no, they're not like that. Since I've played, like you said, even at the top tables, people are like playing by intent. And he finally played, and now he loves playing competitive because, like you said, it's not a chore, to get through your games. So I would definitely agree agree with that.
I say I get nickel and dimed in more casual games with people that don't come to tournaments than people that go to tournaments, actually, which is crazy. I feel like every time I go to play a game with somebody, they like really like the social contract has come a long way though, because like I've entered into competitive for my first season in ninth ed about a year and a half ago now at this point. And yeah, I expected it to be so much harsher than it actually was because I played casually for years with my friends. But oh my gosh, people are so nice, so like forgiving, and like like people like once you get into playing competitive, you understand what people are trying to do. They'll say things that like just make sense. Like play by intent, like we said, like yeah. It's so much more enjoyable not having to worry
I think
about.
it helps that like everyone kind of knows.
Yes.
And you said like YouTube added to it. Everyone like there's names that everyone knows, and if you kind of like you said get that reputation early, being a good player, good event, good TOs, you're like everyone wants that. No one wants to be the guy that people see him at a tournament and they're like, oh, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, when I was at Nova looking across the top 16 players, we're all playing our games, and I think there was only one bad apple in the whole bunch. And everybody was looking over at that one table, and my new friend Steven was playing against him, and, you know, you could just tell there was like a level of discomfort on his face. Like, well, I'm not used to this up here at this level.
Yes.
But,
it's hard to work. That's one thing I'm glad about. There's a lot more accountability. I feel like before when I went to tournaments and stuff like that, a long time ago when I played like 6th edition tournaments, there was like no online things to help you. The game also was way more cut and dry about like winning the game was so obscure. It was basically just killing your opponent's units into the dirt, and that was the game. So it was just like a very different time, and because like strategy didn't matter much, it only just mattered really about like winning and stuff, which was I feel like a way more toxic environment because it's like it's different when you have objectives and stuff because there's interesting ways to win where you can be losing unit after unit after unit but winning on points where it just didn't exist back then. So it was all about like busted combos and like rule sharking and stuff.
You know, I can agree with that. I actually was one of the people I know that really enjoyed the missions that ITC had initially had, which was kill one, kill more, hold one, hold more, because it kind of created the first initial balance as far as I'm concerned. Yes, there were armies that was skewed towards, but that was the first attempt to balance mission sets. And I think Reese and his team did a great job attempting that.
I agree.
Now Games Workshop is doing an amazing job. You know, there's obviously sometimes, you know, you'll hear the people on the internet, like, they're obviously not reading their codexes, or I don't think their playtesters are taking this seriously. I was talking with a couple friends, and if you look at how the books have been, rules is written, from the beginning of ninth up until now, it seems as if they were all written to hard counter a different book.
Yes. I think GW catches a lot of flack for they're doing so much better than they used to on codexes. Like we've seen a little bit of leaks from Votan stuff. From what we know from the leaks and stuff, they're not looking to be the best army of the game. Like their secondaries are pretty mediocre. Their points and everything like that seem pretty okay. But there's nothing like that we haven't seen already that's like broken from them. Like they have a lower save than like Marines have with Armor Contempt. They have like all around they just seem like they're same old same. Like nothing crazy looks like it's coming out of this book that we haven't already dealt with a similar aspect to.
I say it's kind of similar to what I would call the Terminator fever now. So everybody saw this unkillable block of Terminators. Everybody's like, oh no, how I deal with it. Me as a top player, I'm like, well, I'm just gonna fly around it, and he's not gonna touch me.
Yep. I'm gonna kill him again. Yep. I'm gonna put 2 of my flyers base to base, and he can never move in a straight line. His whole like 5-6 inches, depending on the faction. Yeah.
Well, I never considered the fact I'm gonna have to shoot this Terminator brick, and then like at ACO, I was told against the first my opponent was playing Emperor's Children. First time I've ever played against them. I did not even know they could advance and charge with the Terminators. Like, well, that changes things. I have to engage them.
Yeah.
And then they lasted until the end.
Was it White Scars also run in charge? Is that who I'm thinking of for the Space Marine faction?
Yeah, White Scars can also advance and charge.
Yes.
It's a little bit annoying, but they don't punch as hard as the Terminators do.
Not until turn 3. They
Oh, yeah,
punch
no,
really
turn 3
hard.
is different, but if
Turn,
Tau have a
yeah,
table
yeah,
with white cards by turn 3, they're not doing their job.
yeah. That's true. That's very true. Yeah. Let's talk about your Nova event though. Let's talk about how that went. Do you want to talk about your matchups, how they went?
Yeah, sure. My first matchup was against Max Du Bois, absolutely phenomenal guy in the community. He's from Quebec, Canada.
Okay.
He came down to Nova. He knows a lot of our teammates in depth, and we had a great game. I played in the Necrons. Um, I went first, so I made sure to bomb two of the Satans immediately in the movement phase. Had to get those mortal wounds out there quick, and then I shot two of them really hard, and also picked up two scoring units with the Jets, just so that I could make sure to get rid of like a tiny Scarabs unit,
Yep.
tiny Warrior unit. But I had redeployed. Well, I deployed my characters for one, knowing where I was going to redeploy if I went first, and then I jumped all my suits in the redeploy all the way to the right. And of course, we had Dawn of War deployment, so it was short
Very short
jog
table.
and
Yeah.
jump across the board basically. Um, I gave all the buffs out where they needed to be. Dumped long strike over there too. We went forward. One unit sent 18 with the cold star. One unit I used a stratagem, went 16. Long strike went his 12 up, and just we deleted a whole side of the board.
Gotcha.
So, but it seems to be when I have the short board, that's kind of the common theme is just overload one side and move over.
Yeah. Kind of where you I forget what they call it, where you guys end up trying to rotate around each other and who can stop who from rotating.
Right. Well, I wanted him to rotate around anyways, because then I could just jump to the middle and catch him.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I think
But,
this is one of the times I think movement armies are very strong is on these short boards, surprisingly enough. Not just because, like, moving across long boards, yeah, the movement helps, but the short boards allow you to get to so many little, like, interesting positions and spots to where it's harder to target you, get a hold of you, and even move block on the shorter boards because there's less, between building and stuff, there's less vertical room to move. Like, there's less room to physically fit your balls and move.
right.
So I definitely think that movement's a big part of the game now.
Yeah, no, I can totally agree with that. But coming into like day 3, I made it to the top 16 bracket. I won my first game in the top 16 bracket. I had 2 losses in the top 16, and they were each decided by like a single dice roll, which to me tells me we were both playing a great game.
Yeah.
But I think the most memorable moment was playing against an Imperial Knights player who undoubtedly is the best Knights player I've ever played against. Made it to the top 16, ended up actually placing higher than I did, and both Hammerheads decided that they needed to wound on ones, and then Tauset reroll those ones into more ones.
Yeah.
I did that literally. I played a fun game last night against a buddy. I brought 4 hammerheads and like 2 flyers just for like lulz. I was like practice for a small RTT I was gonna bring it to. I shot with long strike, rolled a 1 into a 1 to hit with marker light, and then the next guy rolled a 2 into a 2 to wound against like a T8 kill rig. It just like whiffed it. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, this is not going according. This is turn 1 too, so I was like, oh no, I've definitely misplayed here.
Yep, no, that absolutely happens.
Yeah,
Another reason I'm actually looking at the Riptides, because if you overcharge them, their weapons are significantly better in range than my Crisis suits are currently.
yes,
Crisis suits, I had to get close to deal all that damage. So, for the sake of politically correct terms, the new list is I'm going to sit here and threaten you with range, and I have this really, really big buffed up suit squad that says mess around and find out.
I love it. So I love the Riptide tech. I have 5 Riptides, so I might have to bust one out of retirement to try some stuff with that. Are you still playing Tauceps with this new list, or are you trying something different?
Yep, I think the only bad thing is there's so much utility that we want to put in, and with the amount of points they increase crisis suits, I actually felt like it was a bit too much. Increase the plasma plus increase the suit. They could have actually just left it as increasing the suit's base cost, and I think it would have been just fine.
Yeah,
Because I mean, what happened? Thomas Ogden is now still playing 3 big units of suits. He doesn't care. He dropped scoring stuff, which he doesn't care. His
Yeah.
philosophy is you cannot win the game if you're unalived. Exact word.
Fair.
So
Fair. I'm almost to the point where I just don't end up using my CP enough, and I think I might just end up cutting my ethereal.
Tom and I actually both cut our ethereals out.
Yeah,
So,
for a long
that's
time I
not
believed
bad.
in the ethereal until the battlesuit nerf, and now every time I bring the ethereal, I just feel like I'm not quite getting the value one out of it. And the CP just kind of goes to waste for 80, and he's 80 points now. He was like what 65 before, I think. So he went up 15 points and a CP. I'm like, man, I don't know if I need this guy anymore. I just get a whole other squad of like, say, fire warriors, a few units of crew hound, or something more utility wise.
So I'm at a level now where I'm thinking 2 units of Crute and then 2 units of Crute Hounds.
Okay.
They're good at blocking the charges if something, really hurtful is coming. They're
Yep.
good at reaching out and grabbing an objective for decisive action. Because now I have 3 capabilities to jump out, shoot, and jump back
Yep.
with 2 Riptides and a unit of Crisis Suits. So
Yep. Wow, I didn't even
I'm
think
gearing
about that.
my list
Yeah.
towards being able to aerospace, and if I really need, being able to R&D.
Yeah,
So
I'm still not sold on the aerospace. I seem to struggle somehow every single time with getting that very last tick. And it happened to me the other day. I've been trying to play aerospace in my list a lot. I somehow stopped being able to get like one of the sides or the very back side of their board. And the other day I failed getting my own middle point one game because I like was easily able to get up to the middle thing. I needed all my shooting turn 1 and 2, so I just never got my backfield one. And we ended up trading like sides of the board.
so I think aerospace is a great secondary to have. I usually don't struggle getting it unless it's like a really good Eldar player and it stays defensive, or like in one chaos player stopped me and one board edge. I think he dropped a character over there, so I couldn't just jump.
Yep.
So in retaliation, I just shot the character off for the sake of
Yep.
it. So, but
Yep. I've been finding a lot of horde lists lately, so it's really hard to get in, like slowly get across the board through them, like physically through. Like I've been fighting like 180 guardsmen with like Baneblade and or not Baneblade, Shadow Sword and 2 Lehman Russes. It's just like a wall of like anti-movement coming at you.
yeah. So I'm actually really trying to figure out how to balance my list at this point, because of people like yourself who bring massive hordes.
I would never.
I really want to have all my burst cannons, but then come to find out those burst cannons aren't that great into these 2+4 up, babes holding shields and spears. So
Yeah, no. Yeah, I'm very much known for being a horde player at heart. I plan when Votan come out to play about 100 Votan in the very first list I can at whatever event we'll have them. I'm gonna show up, bring 120 Votan, like 6 bikes, and that will be the list.
that's horrendous.
Yeah, it's gonna. I got like 3 of my buddies coming over. We're gonna get this list built and painted day 1. We're gonna rock it. Oh.
You know what's funny? Going back to when you're talking about Thomas's approach versus your approach to building Tau, back in March, which was I think the last time I touched my Tau at Adepticon, I remember watching Thomas's game because I think he was in the top game against that at the time the Harlequin jam. And I remember looking at his list because I had my Tau and I kind of built similar to you, where I built at the time 3 crisis suit units and then a ton of point scoring and utility. And I remember looking at his list and it was just crisis. It was just like all airburst and plasma and just kill the other person. And it's kind of funny that he's still able to do that even after all the nerfs. Not as much airburst, but that approach is still working for him versus, us that are trying to do the utility approach. It's like, I don't know what fits the job best. Like last time I played, I would never drop the ethereal, but now we're at the point where we're dropping ethereals,
So
Right.
yeah, it cracks me up because it's really funny to look at because there is 2 ways to build Tau. You can either go for the I'm going to score objectives and I'm going to beat you down, or I'm just going to crush you and I'm going to worry about secondaries as a second thought. Which I have not. I'm always about scoring points and stuff, and I never really think about like, man, maybe I can just go in with something and just like cripple their forces and just go for that type of play, which I feel like
So,
the
I
battle
mean,
suits more benefit that play style for.
yeah, me and Tom both started off with a lot of crisis suits because the reason he and I both love the army is their little Gundams.
Yeah.
Um, but their firepower was so impressive now that you could take a third weapon option and you could take a crisis suit war gear. I
Yes.
mean, the amount of firepower they have is just insane. They're decently speedy now, having the 10-inch move and all the tricks and utility to be able to move them faster, farther. You can split drones off of the units, which basically gives you an additional unit if you're careful enough with your movement phase. So, round 4, split a unit off to hold an objective while you keep going. Uh, Round 5, do the exact same thing.
Yep.
Leave drones behind and go forth and just murder. Uh, it's quite easy actually, because once you get into that groove, you can already see 2 turns ahead where you're going to leave your drones. Um, Percentage wise, if I jump around this corner and I nuke these 2 units, which is pretty easy when you're in Cayenne,
Yes.
especially
Yes.
rerolling everything, they tend to normally die pretty quickly. So then, like, hey, I'm going to murder this. I'm going to jump back behind this nice plastic base that GW says nobody can shoot me past. And then I'm going to detach the drones at the beginning of the command phase and then drop it on an objective and go forth another 18 inches and just do the same thing over here. But I don't need drones anymore because I've already neutralized most of the forces. That's kind of the mindset that me and Tom have talked about quite a bit. So, but I say the differences between me and Tom is he's far more aggressive, where I'm a little more passive of a player. There is not a single passive move I've ever seen him make.
This is my type of person.
Right. So, like, when you're playing against Tom, imagine he runs to the center of the board with everything and says, "Please come find out." That's exactly what he does.
I'm very much about this person.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I mean,
well,
Tal's the perfect army for that.
Yeah.
they're pretty good at it. But he's still only running 2 shield drones and a marker drone per squad, and then only 2 crisis suits have shield generators. One's got an iridium armor. I mean, he's got it well balanced for durability, but I mean, the man's still running 14 suits, and they're doing super well.
I love it so much.
But we are both using the 2 Sun Sharks for sure.
Yeah, the 2 Sun Sharks are MVPs recently. The points to performance ratio, they're just all stars. But especially with dropping their drones, doing the same thing like the suits, where they can go score in the later turns if they've survived, or we flew them off and bring them back later. So is there anything you want to talk about before we leave off here? We're probably going to wrap up here in the next few minutes. Is there anything you want to any topics you want to talk about? Is there anything you want to shout out or anything?
I mean, nothing really big and specific. I mean, we've already kind of hit on the events coming up.
Yep.
I do think it's very important for like smaller podcasts to get out there, and I think you guys are doing great with what you've done so far.
Yeah.
It brings different perspectives, different local communities together. It's like advertisement for smaller events.
Yeah.
And then, so I mean, I'm thrilled you guys are doing what you're doing, and look forward to watching more content and seeing you at events. And I know we had a great game, Garrett.
Yep.
I wish Conjurers would have stood back up, but it is what it is.
Yep. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I would have lived and feared for my Sacrosaints. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, sorry, house full of kids. So, I mean,
no, you're fine.
Apologize for that. But
no, you're totally fine. Well, thank you so much. Go check out Death or Glory. Go see all of their events and stuff. They've got a bunch of posted events here in the next few months, I believe. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, thank you all. We'll see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See ya.
Have a good one.